Haney Biz presents Entrepreneurs Unlimited. Here's your host, Mark Haney.
Rise and shine, Sacramento. How you doing this morning? You were not out at the Marshall Tucker Band concert last night, were you? Like some of us took Limitless Limo out to the concert, and then met my buddy Eric Vorbeck out at Lori's, a little watering hole called Lori's Little Shack, I think it is. Anyway, in Rockland, and had a good time. And Eric and I were talking strategy, how to win. You know, Eric's a great guy, and he really knows strategy. And so we were talking about that. And you know what? I got to have a little shout out to Eric. I appreciate you kind of setting me up for today's show. Eric's a great guy. He's a Cowboys fan, but other than that, he's a pretty good guy. And we were talking about must-win situations, right? What do you do in a must-win situation? So I'm going to set up the stage here for a situation that you need to be thinking about. As a business owner, this is a football situation, but I'm going to set it up as a football question. Okay, it's a must-win situation. You are down 6-0 with only 30 seconds left in the half, and you have no timeouts remaining. You've intercepted the ball, but now it's a frustrating 4th and goal because you've been stopped repeatedly at the 1-yard line. The crowd is yelling for you to go for the touchdown. What do you do? Tom, I'm here with Tom Cisneros, my good buddy. We are missing Marcus Haney. He is somewhere sipping a Long Island iced tea, I believe. And so anyway, what do you do? You got the pressure on, 30 seconds to go in the half, Tom. What do you do?
Well, I tell you what I don't do. I don't curl up on the turf like a baby in the fetal position.
Okay,
but really, I mean, that's a tough thing, right? Because, I mean, inherently you have done some groundwork, so you have an idea as to what the team you're playing is like in the second half. How's the health of your players? You have to take all these things into consideration, but it's a game time situation, so you've got to make a decision right then. Personally, and I think this is a character thing with some people, right, or most people, I'd go for the touchdown. You want to get as far ahead as possible. Yeah. That's
the time you were to dive in head first over the top of the line. And some of us may be a little bit more careful and take the field goal, take the 3 points. But in business, so many times we are sitting there with these game time situations. You're in a meeting and somebody throws a question at you and there's not time to call a timeout, right? You have to make a decision at that time. And how do you handle that decision? I mean, the best leaders handle game pressure in a very successful way. They handle it well. And the best leaders, they don't really think about the critics or the armchair quarterbacks around the office, around the industry. They figure out a way to make those decisions, and more often than not, they come up with a W.
And let's clarify, too, not all the time. I mean, even the best entrepreneurs, the best business owners, the best coaches make mistakes. I'm not going to bring up Seattle in the Super Bowl a little while back. But
I think it's a great point. And I think, we're talking football a little bit. Just because of the draft, I think it put us all in the mode of, hey, let's talk a little bit about football. Sports relates to football in a lot of ways. Sports relates to business in so many ways. And the Niners draft, I mean, they did pretty well, but that's more of a strategic decision, right?
Yeah.
When you're preparing for the draft and they say, hey, we want to rebuild the defense, that's more of a larger strategic decision versus that game time in the trenches. You got to be thinking on your feet.
Right.
So, what did you think about the draft? They drafted a guy named DeForest Buckner. DeForest, and I just had to bring this up because I thought the name was so interesting. He's a big defensive lineman. He's like a tree.
Right.
And the name is, I think, very fitting. He's not just a big tree. He's DeForest. Yeah, exactly. So coming up, we got a great show today. We kind of started off having some fun, and we're going to be talking about how you handle stressful, tactical, real-time decisions. And how do you slow the game down? How do you think on your feet so masterfully? And how do you put that game face on so you're ready to go when it's time to make the call? And today we have a few successful entrepreneurs that have more than a little experience in thinking on their feet. They build businesses. Later in the show, you will meet Sacramento's own Sonny Mayugba and his co-founder, Coco Barnum. They have the mobile application that allows you to reserve a table, enjoy the meal, and then not have to wait around for the check. But coming up after the break, you will meet Lokesh Sakaria from Moneta Ventures, venture capital firm that has money to invest right here in Northern California. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, also broadcasting on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. We are here with Lokesh Sakaria, managing partner, Moneta Ventures. How you doing today, Lokesh?
Very good.
Thank you very much for coming down today, and we want to hear the Moneta Ventures story, but we also want to know the story of Lokesh, right? You have done so many things in your life. Give us a little bit of your background and what led you to launch Moneta?
Sure. So I used to have a couple of IT services companies. So we did those IT services companies. They were based, one of them was based in Folsom. And at one point, we needed money, just like all entrepreneurs do.
I can relate.
Yes. So we looked for money in town, and we found that there weren't really too many local VCs investing. So when Moneta was formed, the idea was to be that local venture capital firm for Sacramento and be able to provide capital to companies like Sparta, who were successful but didn't necessarily have access to capital here.
So what happened with Sparta? You no longer were you able to have an exit with Sparta?
Yes, we were. At a company called KPIT Cummins basically bought Sparta out. And that was a very good thing for all our employees because a lot of them had stock in the company.
Yes. And we were introduced by our good buddy, David McDaniels. And David and I have known each other since we were little kids. And he told me that I needed to talk to you. And since then, we've been reconnected by Kevin Nagel, and I'm getting invested in your fund. And so I expect to learn a lot from you, not only today, but in the years to come. Lokesh, now, okay, so you started Moneta, and how long ago was that, and what happened after you started it?
So we started it 2.5 years ago, and we thought we'll start a small $10 million fund with some decent portion of that money being my own money and all of that. So we get going, but because Sparta had done so well for our investors, basically every dollar invested in Sparta ended up being $4.93 for our investors. And so we underestimated the excitement that was around this, and we ended up with basically a $25 million fund, with goals of reaching 10.
Everybody wants to be around Lokesh. And the name Lokesh, it kind of sounds like low cash, but it's not even close to that, is it?
No, I joke about that all the time. I said, people never forget my name when I introduce myself that way.
Low cash, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it should be Mocash. So what kind of companies do you invest in, Lokesh?
So we invest 75% of our portfolio is in technology companies. So technology companies doing revenues between $500,000 to $5 million per year. So that's 75% of our portfolio. And then 25% of our portfolio is healthcare companies. So typically healthcare services companies, maybe in telemedicine or healthcare technology companies. So that's 25% of our portfolio there.
What about startups that haven't come across any revenue yet?
So in Fund 1, we were fairly risk averse, and that's a strange thing to say as a VC because our business is based on risk. But in Fund 1, we were comparatively more risk averse, so the criteria was $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. But as we look to launch Fund 2, we are actually going to fund companies that don't necessarily even have revenue at this point.
Okay, so that's a little bit more of a risky bet for you.
Absolutely, and we feel more and more comfortable being, a VC. Remember, Moneta was the first time I was a VC, and it was the first fund. So first-time VC with the first fund, that's a deadly combination.
But you have managed to get the second fund. It's in the process of launching as we speak. And why did you select technology for 75% of your portfolio and 25% for healthcare? Why not? There's so many other things you could invest in.
So two reasons. One, the three founders that we have in Moneta all have technology backgrounds. We worked for technology companies. That's where we came from. That's what we knew. We added healthcare because we felt, healthcare was a hard area to be in. And if you're going to be the VC for Sacramento, you almost need to be in healthcare and technology. And in Fund 2, actually, we are adding ag tech.
Ag tech, okay.
So we'll have ag tech, healthcare, and technology. And that's all primarily trying to grow towards what this region produces, right? So Sacramento is known for ag tech. Sacramento is known for healthcare. So that's what the intent is.
How much of your investment will be here in the Northern California region?
So when we started out, people said, well, you won't find enough deals in Northern California, and more importantly in Sacramento. There are not too many investable companies. And that's been completely proven wrong. We saw some incredible companies in the process, and 13 out of our 16 investments are in the greater Sacramento region.
Okay. Very much of it is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you, just thinking for people who are thinking about at what stage should I be looking for venture capital? And for you guys, it's in that $500,000 to $5 million range. So really the smaller companies. But you look to really grow the company once you get involved. Typically, what kind of growth do you look for?
So we are looking for these companies to aspire to be at least 50 million to 100 million in revenue, right? That's what we are, we want them to have a business plan which takes us there. And we help them get there, right? So that's the other thing that's kind of unique about us. The way we figured it out was that if it was on our ability to pick the right companies, there's nothing to say that we would be better than average, because remember, this is first time VC with a first time fund. So we said, how can we change the game where we can actually help these companies and bring our entrepreneurial experience to bear?
Besides your entrepreneurial experience, how much does your technology experience help to grow the companies?
So one of my partners, Vaibhav Nadgowda, he comes from a very strong technology background. So I would say personally for me, I'm neutral on technology. I can understand it, but I'm not necessarily the guru for technology. But in our team, we have somebody who's incredible at understanding it and providing value there.
And just thinking about our topic today of thinking on your feet, and we talked a little bit about making tactical decisions. What kind of tactical decisions do you make where there really isn't a lot of time to call a timeout in the middle of the game? Are there situations like that you put yourself in?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times entrepreneurs will come to us and say, we're raising $4 million and we are already $2.8 million. We already have money, $2.8 million. And we're looking to raise the remaining $1.2 million. So it might not give us enough time, as much as we would like, to really dig into them and kind of find the, how good they are and do the due diligence in that level of detail. So a lot of times you are having to make gut calls.
Ah, yes. And when you are making that gut call, how much does the personality of the CEO or the founder play in your investment decision?
Oh, very big part. Life is too short to be surrounded by people that we don't like.
Yes, yes.
So we make sure. That those are people that we can get along with them. They are open to listening and coaching and teaching us in return, right? So we look for good individuals who have heart.
Last week we had Troy Feist on the show, and he's built a chain of restaurants, and he has business partners in his restaurants, and he said that the way he chooses his business partner is, would I drive 20 minutes to go have a beer with this guy? Is that that sounds like kind of a gut call like you might make?
Absolutely. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yes. You got to surround yourself with people you like. Now, you just on the personal side, you are you didn't grow up here in the Sacramento area. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in India, and I actually have a funny story about how I got here. My dad used to import U.S. wheat.
Okay.
And he was invited by Senator Bob Dole and the U.S. Wheat Association to visit Kansas. Well, he comes to Kansas, loves the U.S., and says, well, you got to get an education here. So it was kind of decided for me that I needed to be here in the U.S.
So who needed to get the education here, you or your dad?
Me.
Oh, you did. Oh,
I did.
your dad.
So I was 14 years old at that time, and it was pretty much decided on that trip that I would come here and do my undergraduate degree.
And what would you say to your dad right now about that decision?
I said he was a wise man.
Dad, you did it again. That's awesome. And then did you grow up in Kansas then?
No. So
after you moved here? I mean,
So I came to school at Berkeley.
Okay, so that's when you came as in college. You went
in
to
college.
Berkeley.
You know, so I did my 4-year electrical engineering, computer science at Berkeley.
Nice.
And
same place as Steve Wozniak, right?
Yes.
Apple.
Yes, and but decided at the end of it that maybe engineering wasn't for me. Maybe I was more interested in business, and so took a job with Pricewaterhouse.
Oh, okay.
And they sent me on
the
a
big
project.
accounting firm.
Yes, exactly.
So you have are you a CPA too?
No, I am not. But it was on their management consulting side, and they sent me on a project here at Intel. That's how I first landed in the Sacramento Folsom area. Loved it. And decided that this is where I was going to be.
You liked it better than Berkeley, it sounds like.
Well, I loved Berkeley too, but I just, liked the fact that this was one of those suburbs and nice, clean, neat.
It is a nice town. It is a nice area to live in. Now, you're a Cal grad, and I don't know, are you a Cal football fan at all?
Oh, I am.
Oh, you guys got the #1, you got Jared Goff, right, the quarterback, the first player taken in the draft. I mean, taken by the Rams. How'd that make you feel?
Oh, just the fact that the #1 draft pick was from Cal just made me feel super. I mean, that was awesome.
Go Bears.
Go
All
Bears.
right. When we come back, we're going to meet some entrepreneurs that are doing something very cool. We all know when we're in a hurry at a restaurant after a meal and you're waiting for the check to arrive. You ever been tempted to dine and dash? Maybe? Well, coming up after the break, you will meet Sacramento's own Sonny Mayugba and his co-founder, Coco Barnum, and they have the mobile application that allows us, to reserve the table, enjoy the meal, and then not have to wait around for the check. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, also streaming live broadcast at HaneyBiz.com. We are back and have the opportunity to meet Sonny Mayugba and Coco Barnum of the venture-funded company Requested. How you guys doing today?
Doing good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming down on a Saturday morning, and we are going to find out all about your company. Let's start with you, Coco. And how did you tell me? I'm stammering a little bit, but.
She is good looking, right?
Well, her name, I was starting to call you Nicole, and then I called you Coco, and your real name is Nicole. But I wanted to tell you, how did you guys get together? I want to ask that question of you.
Yeah, so we actually all met at an advertising agency. So it was a little firm in Roseville, and we built dozens of projects together and realized we worked well together. So we decided to kind of go out and do some projects on our own.
All right. And Sonny, now how's it working out for you guys?
It's working out really great. Requested was an idea that was incepted in the latter half of 2012 from a problem that I saw that I experienced myself as a restaurant owner. And, it's been amazing to be here in 2016 with a really great team and a company. And, there's 8 of us, and we're cranking away, and we've got some great investors and great advisors and a great ecosystem around us to help us fulfill and see this thing through.
Now, tell us about the concept of Requested. What does it do?
Sure. So the simplest way is Requested is a mobile app where you can discover amazing locally owned independent restaurants, bars, and cafes. You can scroll through, pick a place, you book it, and then walk in, have the awesome experience you have, and then dine and dash.
You do actually dine and dash?
You do actually dine and dash. I know.
Wow.
Users always are funny because they'll write us Facebook messages and go, is it okay for me to leave? Like they'll be sitting at a restaurant and be Facebook messaging us, can I actually just leave? Is that okay? Or am I going to get in trouble or chased down the street? Or?
Now, what prompted this? Did you have people dining and dashing from your restaurant? And you said, hey, I got to solve this. Let's get up an app.
I think Tom, I saw him walking on a bill once.
Yeah,
I think that actually
Tom.
happened. He owes us for a couple lamb shanks.
So how did you arrive at the idea? What prompted that thought?
Sure. A couple things. The first is, I'm a serial entrepreneur like yourself, and I was lucky enough to meet Kurt Spataro and Randy Peregrine, and long story short, I started a restaurant myself. So that opened in February of 2012, and had the fortunate, awesome honeymoon, really busy and really crazy. And then it started to get its tempo, and by summertime, I was kind of looking at the flow of customers for this retail establishment, the Red Rabbit, right? This restaurant. And I was sitting there thinking, man, I really like sales and marketing and advertising. And I wish there was a way for me to drive customers during off-peak times and maybe make a little more revenue during peak times, but really drive customers that get what we do and actually understand our concept that I can connect with. And then I started to have this really big vision around the ultimate CRM that would connect merchants and customers in a really big way. So that's where it came from. And then I was looking at Google and Yelp and YP and all these really large companies and going, they're not doing it, and they don't really get it. Like, they don't get what it's like to truly be a merchant versus just software developers in the Valley.
Coco, how has the technology really made this possible? What have you done?
We've started somewhere a lot different than we used to be, or than we are now. It's been a long journey, but originally we had tech because we thought that the merchants would want to respond and actually say, yes, come into my business, but they're very, very, very busy people, so it just wasn't working. So now we have what you see today, where we have a preloaded inventory and you're actually able to snatch that up.
So I download the app, and then I can make the reservation, but I don't have to pay at the restaurant. You've created something where it automatically bills my credit card?
Yeah, so the merchants actually have a sister app, and they enter whatever your subtotal is. And if you receive a discount, because you can receive discounts on the app, they just enter that in there as well. Charges the card right when you leave the restaurant. It's pretty great.
As a consumer, I'll add to that, essentially it's the same onboarding process as Amazon, Uber, Lyft, anything like that. So when you download Requested, you're going to go through that same process of making your profile, or Facebook connecting your profile. So now you have real identity on Requested, and then linking some sort of payment method in our super secure system, the same system Twitter and Lyft and the best in breed use. Yeah. So it's super secure. So now it's essentially an e-com platform, right? And so like Coco was saying, now you can shop, so to speak, book reservations at these places. And then with the sister app, we're actually integrated into the merchant's POS. This is one of our barriers to entry. Lokesh, if you're listening, listen to that.
Barrier to so when he says barrier to entry, just for us C students here, he's talking about stopping other people from being able to, his competitors from being able to get into that realm. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
nobody else can do that. How are you defensing that?
Well, I wouldn't say nobody else can do it, because there's a couple others that are out there doing something similar. But no, it's just something we've learned over the last 3-4 years in our development process. Like Coco said, we start with a prototype and built a little something, and then we've just been building on it and learning through customer feedback. Really, this is what I want. Okay, now let's go back in the woodshed and build it. And so that's really where it's gone.
And what metrics do you use to measure your success?
Well, the ultimate metric is conversions and sales. So we're looking at a couple different things. The first is how many bookings, the sort of North Star is how many bookings are we getting? The second is of people that download and join, what is their retention and usage rate? And then the third would be affinity. This is a little tougher, but how much do people care about what we're doing? How much do they care about our product, our company, and that whole thing? And then, the churn of merchants. On the merchant side, churn. So,
Coco, how does the platform allow you to leave a tip?
There's a default tip built in. So when you sign up, it defaults to 20%.
Okay.
And you can actually adjust that, so you can change it to whatever you'd like.
So if you're a big tipper like Tom Cisneros, you can leave double the amount?
Absolutely.
Ah, nice.
And you can even adjust it on a per reservation basis. So if you have a really great time at Lowbrow and you want to bump it up, you can do that as well.
Lowbrow. Okay, so is that Mike Hargis over there? Ah, okay. What restaurants do you guys have into the system at this point?
Wow. Well, there's about 85 restaurants here in Sacramento, mostly in Midtown, downtown area, Lamb Park, and East Sac. And it's a wide array. The first thing is these are independently owned, locally operated restaurants. So it is everything from Red Rabbit to Hook and Ladder, Shady Lady, Lowbrow, Fish Face Poke Bar, Evan's Kitchen. There's a little something, the Trade Cafe. There's a lot of really great restaurants from local entrepreneurs.
And how does the restaurateur benefit from this? I could see that he might turn the tables faster because they don't have to wait around for the tip. Are there other benefits that the restaurateur would receive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where this idea stemmed from, was how do we grow incremental revenue for restaurateurs without increasing fixed costs? That is really the North Star for the restaurant. The value equation for them is, hey, I'm going to get, 3, 5, 10 more tables through my day, and I don't have to hire any more labor. So now I'm increasing my drop to the bottom line. But you're saving, we did a study, we're saving 8 minutes per table for labor. So that server can go to the POS system 1 to 2 times versus 3 to 4 times. That saves a lot of time and labor, and they can turn tables faster. So that's a huge piece. The other benefit is they're driving business maybe during some off times that normally people wouldn't come in, because the other sort of barrier to entry that we have is we have seamless dynamic pricing. So for the consumers out there listening right now, they can go through Requested and maybe find a place like Hook and Ladder, which is just magnificent food and cocktails. They might find it for 15% off. Hook and Ladder doesn't do discounts. I mean, you cannot find one anywhere, but on Requested, they're actually discounting if you come in, during certain times of the day.
We are going to be back in just a moment with Coco Barnum and Sunny Mayugba of Requested, and we're going to bring back on Lokesh to help us ask a little bit more about the strategy behind growing the company and raising money, and a little bit more about thinking on our feet. This is Mark Haney, Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, also broadcasting on Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live podcast on YouTube at haneybiz.com. We are back with an encore performance from Lokesh Sikaria. Thanks for coming back in the room, Lokesh. You and I are going to team up right now, if you don't mind, and we are going to talk to the people from Requested. We have Coco Barnum and Sunny Mayugba, and they have built a business around Dine and Dash. So help me out here. We're going to talk about how they grew their business and where they're going to go from here. So let's talk now. You said no question was off limits, Sonny, before the show, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
Can I rescind that? Unless, of course, Lokesh brought his checkbook today. Then
Lokesh carries his checkbook
all the
everywhere
time,
he goes.
right? That's what I'm talking about.
And he thinks on the fly. So we've been thinking about and talking about making tactical decisions. So this may be an opportunity for Lokesh to make a tactical decision on maybe we can close him on getting you guys some funding. Now you guys have already gone out and gotten funding. Tell us about how you got your original funding for Requested.
Sure. Quite simply, we built a prototype and bootstrapped it for about 8-9 months. So that's skin in the game on our behalf. We quit our jobs in 2014.
Wow.
Went out and ate top ramen, got side work, and worked on this on nights and weekends. When we were ready with our prototype, we raised a round here with friends and family. So we just pitched wealthy individuals locally in the Bay Area and closed that round in 11 days. And then we kind of started to work for Requested, formed a Delaware C Corp. So we got our formation all set and all that good stuff. So that was sort of tranche one. Tranche two was we were very fortunate to connect with I would say arguably the most active and most important prolific angel investor in the world, Jason Calacanis. So Jason is, known as a Sequoia. He's a scout. He's a founder himself. He's like second or third in on Uber and about 140 other investments and so on. So we got to go through a program with Jason. He did a round, and then he introduced us to Social Capital Partnership. So Chamath Palihapitiya and Ted Maidenberg and that group, and they came in with Jason too. So that was like our angel round. And so we just closed a bridge. Because, as startups go, we're in the chasm of sorrow right now.
Well, now, some of this sounds a little bit complicated, but something that sounds pretty basic is quitting your job. Coco, you quit your job and went on this startup venture?
Yeah.
How scary was that?
It was pretty scary, but at the same time, my 3 other co-founders are pretty amazing. So it's kind of like no matter what, we're going to land on our feet.
And you started doing some freelance work from what I remember, and then the freelance was pretty successful.
Yeah, that was actually going really, really well.
I can't leave my freelancing to do this big time project.
That was actually a little more hard to leave behind than the stable job because it was something like our little baby that we built. But we were really happy to decide to raise a friends and family round and make this our full-time job. And
So,
Great.
Lokesh, you're sitting over there as an investor who knows a ton about business. What do you want to know from these guys? What would make you want to invest in them?
Yeah. So what I like about them is they have this, the team, the four of them, they just, meld together really well. So I'm always reminded of this Benjamin Franklin quote. He says, we must hang together or we will all hang separately.
Oh, yes.
Right? And
yes.
so they, epitomize that. So I love that about them. So I do have one question for you. One of the challenges I see in your business is that you have to sign up these restaurants by calling them and telling them about requested. So as you scale, as you go from 85 restaurants to 1,000 restaurants, don't you need a lot of money for a lot of salespeople and others pounding the phones? So is this a very cash-intensive business?
Yeah, it's a great question. It can be if managed improperly. So there are precedents before us that have individuals and regions that can actually sign up merchants through an onboarding process that can be very efficient. So I don't think it needs to be cash intensive. We don't need three salespeople per market. We do want to function the way we functioned here, which is having a city manager to a salesperson per region. The other piece is there is tons of incoming business from merchants that we can take them through that process and automate a lot of those steps along the way. So it doesn't have to be super cash intensive. It's not going to be Instagram, no question. I mean, we're not going to be 11 guys in a room and just sign up people around the world. But again, I think that's one of the pieces. Taking time with our merchant onboarding process, going through that whole process of everything from their staff to POS integration, device in store, and then reaching our ultimate vision, which is going to be not just dine in and dine and dash, but delivery, pre-order to dine in, order and takeout. So any single time you have the physical or emotional feeling of hunger or thirst, we want you to think of our product in the future and turn to us, whether it is dine in, pre-order and dine in, delivery, or takeout.
Now, Coco, you and I had talked about potential launching to a geographic area outside of our region, maybe even in the South somewhere. And I think we spoke about potentially licensing people to go out and help drive your product for you, people who are already connected to the restaurants in Baton Rouge, for example. How might that work?
Yes, so we already signed our first deal for a licensing agreement with 225 Magazine out in Baton Rouge.
Nice.
We're going to be flying out there tomorrow, actually, to help get the restaurants onboarded and all set up on the app. But that's a really great way for us to keep that cash flow because we don't have to go out there. We make one or two trips out there, get them all set up, and then they're the ones that are actually maintaining and selling and onboarding.
Right, and if it's a magazine or a supplier to restaurants that covers a wide enough geographic area, you don't need as many licensees. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
many licensees would you say would be? How many areas are there in the country that might need to be licensed?
I'm not really sure.
I can jump in there, and this goes right to the heart of Lokesh's question. So before we answer that, let's get right to the specifics on this. We have a licensing partner in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lafayette. So we're going to cover all of southern Louisiana, arguably a food capital of the world. They bring with them 25 salespeople that already have relationships. And so that doesn't cost us anything. It's just an easy rev share. So less capital intensive and a lot faster to market. So how many licensees? Well, as it turns out, there are media companies out there and associations that have these great staffs that have salespeople and they have audiences they want to monetize that they want to keep busy. And so they need new products to monetize those audiences and those merchants. So we're partnering with them. How many areas? Well, look, there's at least 40, 50 cities in the U.S. that we could go with, but it's not that many partners. We have one partner we're talking to that's in 30 of those markets. These guys are in 3 and so on.
And Lokesh, just thinking about their company, how important would profitability be to you at this stage? Or does profitability not matter at this stage?
No, great question. And for us, because we are based in Sacramento and we don't necessarily have hundreds of millions of dollars to deploy, we do want companies to get to a position where they can provide their own cash flow. But at the same time, if you need $5 million to $10 million, we feel we still would fund them, but we wouldn't fund a LinkedIn, which could require $300 million of raised capital.
Well, Sonny, how do you guys approach burn rate? You guys are obviously driving revenue now, but I'm assuming that you're not profitable yet. Is that a fair statement?
That's actually right. Yeah.
And how do you approach the burn rate concept?
Just like any other company would, we have capital in the bank and we have sales right now. The sales, aren't more than our costs right now. So we're just lean. We have a very lean staff, and we do the sort of like requisite tech thing where we're just paying, really meager salaries, as meager as we can get to get the best talent we can get.
There's still a little bit of top ramen.
A little top ramen. We have some beer in the fridge now.
That way to go.
And then everybody has options vesting across the board, so we're all in this together. So our burn is really, really lean. We've been extremely frugal, and it's really about scale for us. Like Lokesh said, we've got to get our cash flowing a little bit higher, a little bit better, and that's part of this shift in our business model. Rather than trying to be an Airbnb and take over the world ourselves, we've discovered this essentially a enterprise model where we're licensing to partners that already have a lot of this infrastructure done, and they can take our product, which is an awesome product, and sell it and market it.
And you're looking for funding now. Who might a potential acquirer be down the road? Because obviously, if you're getting funding, the venture capitalist or the private equity guy at some point, he's going to want to get his money out. Who's a potential acquirer?
Yeah, it's interesting. The obvious ones are going to be people in our space, like a Yelp, an OpenTable, Priceline, those types, right? The non-obvious ones that we're actually dancing a lot with right now are POS companies. So the whole POS world is changing.
Point of sale.
Point of sale, thank you. Yeah, point of sale companies. So, everything's going cloud-based. There used to be 3 in the world or 5 in the world. Like everything else, there's about 100 now. And they're moving away from just, I'm going to do the transaction and processing to I want to own the customer relationship and I want to own data to help my merchants serve better. So we're a piece of that. And then, of course, our grander vision is a bigger piece of that. So yeah.
So, Sonny, I have a question. This is Lokesh. And so you are a hot startup in the Sacramento region. So when do you scale up for us to get a look at you?
Well, that's a great question.
He's having to think on his feet, which is the subject of today's show.
Good. Look at me. If you can't see me, I'm dancing right now. I got the opening. No, I appreciate that even the interest. I believe that we could come together in June or July. What's interesting is, like Coco said, she's flying out to launch our first expansion market, which does a soft launch June 1, a hard launch June 29. We've built an entire licensing model over the last few months, everything from internal structure and deal making to the actual onboarding structure and playbook. So it's all built. So essentially, we're a tech stack with process and systems and playbooks that can go sign partners really quickly, deploy, and they do the sales and marketing piece. So it's like an actual system. So you'll see the blueprint on that in the next month. So I would say it'd be worth talking and at least see what that trajectory is going to look like in the next, 60, 90 days.
All right, we only have just a little bit amount of time left, and I want to ask each of you one final question, and maybe just think about a one-word answer or a two-word answer. What's the key to thinking on your feet in a stressful situation?
Honesty.
Coco, what do you think?
Take a breath before you respond.
Take that breath. Yeah. All right, Lokesh, you're the man. Let's see what you got.
No, I think, Sonny stole my honesty line.
Honesty. You could never go wrong. Another great quote, honesty is the best policy, huh? That is great. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited, and I want to talk for just a minute about next week's show. And next week who do we have on the show coming up next week?
I'm going to be here, Mark.
Tom will be here. I'm looking for my notes. We have Lance Loveday. Yeah. That's right. That's going to be fun. We have Lance Loveday. He's coming on the show, and he's going to be talking about his new business, Forager, and his older business, his mature business, closed loop marketing. I also want to mention, while we have a second here, I want to talk about our Allegiant partner, Black Oak Casino. Black Oak Casino is really exemplifying the term we call hometown patriotism. So the Allegiant Giving Partners have got together, and they invest in today's heroes and tomorrow's leaders. And on the today's heroes piece, we're buying Action Track wheelchairs. These are these wheelchairs that have tank tracks on them so that wounded veterans can go off-site and really have some freedom, because they fight for our freedom. And these guys that come back severely wounded have have a hard time getting around in a regular wheelchair. So Black Oak Casino is partnered with the Allegiant Giving Partners, and I think they have contributed, and they're contributing enough to get us our 5th chair for the year. So very good job.
Absolutely.
Thanks for clapping, you guys. And Black Oak Casino, we got to just have a little shout out to you guys and all of the Allegiant Giving Partners. We love what you do, and it is just a privilege and an honor to be on your side. So this is Mark Haney. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited. I want to thank Coco for coming on the show today. I want to thank Sonny. And, of course, I want to thank Lokesh. Thank you guys for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us,
You
man.
bet. And we will be back. This is Facebook Live, but we are also streaming live podcast and YouTube at haneybiz.com. Welcome back. And we are here with Tom Cisneros, Entrepreneurs Unlimited. We've been talking with some great guests today, and the subject has been, how do you handle it when you're in a must-win situation? The game is on the line. You got to be able to think on your feet. These tactical decisions that we all have to make in sports, but we make them in business every day, Tom.
In life, every single day.
So how many times a day are you at your very best?
Oh, man.
Does that happen?
It's never enough. I mean, it's never enough. As much as I'd like to look in the mirror and say, yeah, man, I'm on target every single day. It just doesn't happen.
So we talked at the beginning of the show about, do you kick a field goal as you're going into half, and how do you approach that as a coach? How do you approach that situation? And I think if you haven't been there before, it can be stressful. It can be nervous. And one of the first things you think about doing is panicking, right?
Yeah.
And like they did on the airplane. You were on the airplane and everybody panicked because of the turbulence. And when things are stressful, sometimes we panic. But to take the stress out of the equation can be such a big benefit. And I have a few thoughts on that. And I think it's about living full speed and creating a full speed philosophy, right? We all know that your philosophy is the way we think, right? The philosophy is how we think, and your philosophy leads to your attitude, which leads to your actions and which ultimately leads to your outcome, whether you win or not, whether you win that football game or not, whether you make the right decision. So as we think about winning in these stressful situations, there's times when we go through the day and we're really not at our best. We're really not at full speed. We're really not treating it like game situation. We're not treating it like a must-win situation. We're treating it like just another day at the office. But I would submit to you that when we treat our day or a part of our day like a must-win situation, even though it's just an ordinary day, that's when we get the experience to live at full speed. That's when, if I'm a football coach, I'm going to practice that situational game plan during practice so that when it comes down to game time, I know whether I'm going to kick a field goal or not.
Isn't that the difference really between ordinary and extraordinary?
Well, I think if you think about the most successful people you know, and we talked to Sonny a little bit, and the amount of hours that these guys work, especially as a startup, and the intensity that they have to put in order to get something launched that's as difficult to do as what they're doing. You've got to play at full speed. You've got to be having that full speed attitude. You have to think full speed. And I always think, what if I just tackled a full day at full speed, right? I was the first guy to get there in the morning, and I opened the front door for the people as they came in, handed them a cup of coffee, and just as my job is to help people throw a party what people want to come to.
Right.
And if I was at my best, wouldn't I just take it to that extra limit to really be at my very best?
I think
really
that
be at full speed.
Wouldn't that also help the people that you're working with and surrounding yourself with be their best? If you kicked it off that way and I mean, you'd be the Pied Piper, right?
Yeah,
You'd be
if we really wanted to win,
battle.
any of us, I think if we really wanted to win, wouldn't we try to discover what full speed is to us? It might not be football. You might not have a front door of your office, but as you think about what full speed is to you, what creating a real must-win situation is for you, that's how you practice it. So whether it's a construction site and you're at your very, very best, you're going full speed, that affects your outcome.
Without a doubt.
That affects your outcome. And as we were talking to Marcus, Marcus called in, said, how you guys doing? I was telling him the topic, and I asked him, so when you were in the military, did you guys have things that you did to prepare for the full speed things that you were about to approach. He said, yeah, before combat or before we deployed to Afghanistan, we had what we call workups, and we would practice at full speed though, always at full speed. And he said after, he said, Dad, it's weird. After I got shot, I put the tourniquet on and it was like second nature.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I mean, something that catastrophic, and he didn't even give it a second thought.
He said, I don't think he'd ever really talked about it like that before. He said, it was kind of like second nature now that I think about it. And so I would suggest to all of us that we think about full speed. And I would say one of the things that helps me too to get grounded, whether it be the deep breath that Coco was talking about, but I always think, there's probably a scout in the crowd, somebody watching that helps give me that confidence where maybe I can go full speed. Maybe it's my wife. A lot of times it is. It's my kids. It's my business partners, my team.
Your dad watching over you.
Yeah. There's those silent scouts in the sky that definitely looking out for us. So thank you guys for sharing your morning with us today. Yeah. Thank the brave men and women that are fighting for this country and giving us the freedom to dream big, freedom to build businesses, to live life full speed. Never above you, never below you, always by your side.